During the turn of the 7th generation console, the change and advancement of technology would cause a pretty big shakeup to the industry. Sony, after dominating the previous generation, would fumble so hard with the PlayStation 3, causing a shift with Microsoft ending up taking the lead for said generation. It was so catastrophic, even their own developers would struggle for years to develop a single game. Prime example is Gran Turismo 5, taking up half a decade of development time. Within the same time, the rival over at the Western Front would take full advantage of the situation, with Forza Motorsport 2 and 3 releasing for the 360, taking up 2 years of development each. Mixed with the fact that the Xbox 360 had backwards compatibility, yeah, you pretty much get to enjoy the first 3 motorsports within a single console investment. I've already talked about the first Motorsport just recently. It was a decent game and a pretty good starting point for the series, and I did cover Motorsport 2 as well. So this time I would like to explore Motorsport 3 and possibly Motorsport 4 soon, just to see how much the series has progressed. You should probably subscribe for whenever that stream happens. Released in 2009, being the second game in the series developed for the 360, Forza Motorsport 3 would be the series' first major leap with a whole lot of returning and new content. Better graphics, new tire physics, and features. The amount of content here is so chunky, this is one of those games that requires 2 discs. That's how you know you're getting that money's worth of content. And with the rapid growth of online gaming thanks to Xbox Live, along with the absence of Sony's Gran Turismo, it shouldn't be surprising how well this game managed to sell. Within a year, the game managed to sell over 3 million copies, immediately making it the second most successful title at the time, with just 1 million away from FM2's sale counts, followed by a bucket full of awards. It was given the Best Racing Game and Spike Video Game Awards, Driving Game of the Year by GameSpot, IGN's Racing Game of the Year, and plenty of others. It got so many Game of the Year awards that it's kind of surprising not a lot of people talk about it nowadays. Though I guess that's partially the fault of it being overshadowed by its sequel. With all these accolades, it kind of makes sense why some in the community would consider this game as the true peak of the series. But is it really the case? Well, we're going to find that out today. But a bit of warning, I tried this using emulation and it pretty much came out like this.
Holy jeez, what is that? What the fuck?
The other option I had was to buy another 360 along with the game or playing it on the emulator. I know it looks like a piano is going to fall on top of me, but hey, what's a day without a falling piano? Okay, so maybe they went a bit too far with the simplistic look for this game. With so much white, this feels like I'm in the Matrix. This empty white space does remind me a lot of what they tried to do with Horizon 4. And it is a whole lot more tidy and clean compared to the previous titles, but I can understand if anyone would prefer the old one over this overtly clean style. Though I will say the combination of the game's composed soundtrack mixed with the way the UI looks gives off this very chill yet professional feeling. Take a listen here. The career itself is separated into multiple methods. You can do it via the season play, which will utilize a calendar system, meaning you experience events depending on their appearance and selection. But if you want to tackle whichever events you like in any order, you can just go to the event list tab and pick an event there. There's also levels like in the previous game. The change this time around comes from the separation, or rather additional layer of the leveling system, using both the driver level and the car levels. Driver levels pretty much act like how they used to. Each level provides a free car, while the car level provides upgrade discounts. Driver level goes up to 50, while car level only goes up to 5. It's honestly a good limit so that people don't feel like they're forced to run with a single manufacturer for a long while. In season play, you get to pick one of 3 events to fill up the calendar, and every 2 weeks there would be a class-based championship depending on which class you are in. These events may feel a bit random, but it's the one event that gives off a proper feeling of progression, as seasonal personal class dictates what performance level you're stuck with. But aside from that, the career isn't all that different from its predecessor. You win events, level up, get free cars, enter other events, potentially upgrade cars to make things easier, win more events, and repeat. What the season play provides, however, is the feeling of simulating what it feels like to be a race driver with its use of the calendar. Plus, if you've played the first two games and Gran Turismo a lot, the calendar system provides a whole new way of progression than the old samey style of progression. But that ain't the only new shiny thing introduced here. The rewind feature also makes its debut. Inspired by Race Driver Grid by Codemasters, FM3 would be the very first in the franchise to have this feature, something we'll see stick around even until now with Horizon 5 and Motorsport 8. Though in all honesty, the rewind feature makes you borderline invincible in single player. It'll take a massive skill issue for anyone to screw up with this mechanic. Speaking of which, let's discuss difficulty. If you've played a Forza game before, then you pretty much know how the difficulty is customizable from the options. It's a tradition for this franchise overall. There's something weird though. Unless it's a class restricted event, you'd get opponents with different car classes. This is even more apparent in manufacturer exclusive events. Kind of a bummer though, because this means only 2 or 3 opponents in the race are properly competitive against you, while the other people just trail miles behind you. Other new additions are drag races, and you can also toggle drift mode in case you get bored of the usual races. Toggling the drift mode changes the interface to show you drift scores but without a proper drift event. You'll be doing this on your own against AI that are driving normally. It's honestly a nice gimmick to have for online session, and in the case you decide to jump into events with an overpowered car, you can toggle on drifting as a way to challenge yourself or win with style. Drivatar's B-Spec makes a return as a shadow of its former self. Gone are the days when you could train your very own Drivatar. I decided to invite Chadlonzo again for this, but just to make it connect lore-wise, let's just say in the 4 years between FM1 and 3, he's become so successful, he now refuses to even communicate with me. Here we go, Chadlonzo! Off to a good start, already gets slowed down by an old-ass focus, man. How do I tell him what to do, though? Like, he's just driving on his own right now. You can't pick a driver? You can't even tell your driver how to drive. You're just spectating here. Like, you could have made it a little bit more interesting like Gran Turismo did. This is lame. But he does bring good results though, which is a long-winded way for me to say they really stripped down the B-Spec mode here. A complete shame to lose the ability to control the AI driver. Speed progression is certainly a bit better here though. You'll be starting with the lower classes for the start and slowly climb up with higher seasons and player levels. Though nothing is stopping you from outright buying the R-class cars provided you have the funds. The classes range from F to R1, with over 500 cars to play with. So once again, a lower car count than its competitor Gran Turismo 5, which came out a year later, but yet again, Forza's cars are mostly focused on quality over quantity. Even if they have 500 less cars than GT5, Forza's cars have several edges in comparison. They have a decent damage model. Dude, I'm actually kind of curious. How much can you damage your car?
A lot of damage.
Definitely a lot of damage. And get this, unlike their competitor, every car in FM3 actually has an interior view and not a black void. With over 50 brands including Porsches, with so many cars you'll be switching on and off quite often. You'll probably be dreading having to upgrade them one by one. Well, don't worry, there's the game's auto upgrade detection. If they detect you are using an underpowered car for an event, the game will constantly pester you with notifications asking you if you want to auto upgrade the car over and over and over again. It's not a bad feature, especially for the sake of convenience, but it can get really annoying if I want to use a lower powered car for the extra challenge. It's like I'm being pestered by that postal guy and his bloody petition. Cars can be upgraded up by a ton of tiers, so you can use some random production car and boost it up to the R class, allowing you to use basic cars against race spec cars. Car customization is still pretty good too. In fact, it's much better here than ever, especially since you're not limited to production cars or tuner cars exclusively, meaning you can grab any official race cars and make it into your own beast with the livery editor. And with the implementation of the auction house, you can easily make some in-game money by selling cars with your own unique livery attached. There's one detail I need to mention. It feels like the camera is a lot more shaky, but not to the extent where it becomes like an earthquake. It helps a ton with the speed sensation, even in the lower ends. Now there is something quite disappointing with this game. Remember that whole track details bit from FM1? In exchange though, we got some random motorsport trivia and there are over 100 tracks to race on, like for example Puenring Motegi, Costa di Amalfi, Laguna Seca, Maple Valley, Sedona Raceway, New York, Circuit de Catalunya, and many others, including every single track from the previous games. Being a sequel on the same hardware, it's easy to see the comparison between and see how much graphical improvements has been done in FM3. Showcases how much the devs have understood the limits of the machine they're boxed in, which in the end really is the point of it all. Forza Motorsport 3 showcases how much Turn 10 Studios understands the hardware they're given, the game itself, and the community they have fostered. Every single piece of improvement made here is a result of that, but of course it's not all perfect, especially with the drivatars. But in its place comes new ideas, innovation, and advancement, especially with online connectivity becoming a mainstay in the console generation. And even though this experience is pretty scuffed because of emulator jank, I still really enjoy this game. I appreciate every single improvement made here, from the very obvious to the subtle ones. And in all honesty, this experience has pushed my interest in Forza Motorsport 4 up higher, especially since it's considered by a lot of people as the peak of the series. I can't wait to experience that one, which luckily got more love in the emulation scene than FM3, so we shouldn't have to worry about any UFOs or falling pianos chasing me around.